There we go. How's it going, everybody? My name is Edwin. I'm an Acura technician, and today we're gonna replace a couple axles. Yeah, replace this axle. Before we get to the rest of the video, do you mind leaving a like? And would you consider subscribing for more words are hard. Content like this? I'd really appreciate it. That way I can see if you guys are liking this stuff or not. So let's carry on.
Start off by removing both front wheels and the underfloor engine cover.
Alright, so this is going to be one of the easiest axles you could ever replace. You don't have to do any hammering, and essentially just a couple of bolts and the axle's out. You can have three 17mm bolts right around here. This unbolts the lower ball joint from your lower control arm. From there, with those undone, you can undo the axle nut. Then the whole hub knuckle assembly can move away from the control arm, and you'll have enough room to push the axle out. So let's go ahead and start doing that. What time you guys going?
Really nice. Have you been to the Spunny Nose?
I have not.
Dude, it's nice. They have restaurant and they have a brewery there. There's two buildings. One side for restaurant.
Why do I have to work this weekend?
Because I didn't tell you what size axle nut socket you need. Here you go, 32mm.
Alright, so we got that half of the axle out. We got to get the half that's sticking out of the transmission. There's usually a little slot around here that I can fit right here. So this hole right here, we're going to shove a pry bar in there, in between the transmission and the axle itself. So it's going to end up right down there. So you're probably thinking, why does my axle break in the first place? Water and moisture will make its way inside the dampener on the axle, and over time it will just corrode at the shaft.
And since the axles receive the torque from the engine and transmission, it's going to put a constant strain on the axles themselves. So water, moisture, constant torque, it can break.
Alright, so here's the new one. Keep this guy lined up and he should go in pretty easy. This is the side that goes inside the transmission. The side with the threads is the side that your axle nut goes on. Pretty self-explanatory.
Just make sure the axle is going into the transmission nice and evenly, and then while you're putting it in, add a twist in motion and use the axle itself as sort of a slide hammer, and it should make its way in without damaging any of the splines or the C-clip that's at the end of the axle. I like adding wheel bearing grease or lubricant inside the splines of the wheel bearing where the axle goes through, and that's just because it helps reduce any seizing that might occur between the axle and the wheel bearing, just for any future repairs, just to make the lives easier for any other techs working on the car.
Alright, this side's going to be essentially the same, but there's one major difference. But on the passenger side, you're going to have to deal with getting the axle out of the intermediate shaft. Doing this is actually pretty easy. Grab a pry bar, hit your pry bar until it hits this part of the axle. See? So it hits this part of the axle, and you want the force of it to go towards away from away from the car. It's not a bolted one, is it? There we go.
What I like to do is wrap a bungee cord around the axle a couple of times and put it on the brake caliper or the strut. That way when I'm smacking the axle out of the car, it's not going to go flying out and landing on the floor and breaking somebody's foot. Preferably not my foot. Just like the other side, add a twisting motion to your axle as you're pumping it in. And while you're doing this, make sure that the axle is sitting on the intermediate shaft nice and evenly. That's how you know it's going to be able to slide in easily. Otherwise you might just damage one of the splines or the axle itself or the intermediate shaft.
In case you were wondering if you need an alignment after you do your axle replacement, well, typically it's a good idea to get alignment when you touch anything suspension related. And because we removed the lower ball joint from the lower control arm, and since we twisted the knuckle out of the way, you might have thrown it just out of whack just a little bit. So, here we are. After this, I'm gonna have a beer. Where? I don't know. Sunday. And here's after. Camber is off in the right front corner, and on Honda Acuras, camber is not adjustable. Not unless you have an aftermarket kit, and I should probably bring that back up. Yeah, from the factory, it's not adjustable. Alright, I hope you liked today's video, and I should really plan out what I'm going to say more often, huh? I hope you liked today's video, hopefully learned something today, and hopefully I've earned a like and or a comment. So, until next time.